Freddie, we really are doing something pretty cool here at Paddle and Portage. The opportunity to create this beautiful thing that merges two passions of yours is a pretty special thing that, shouldn't go unmentioned.
That would be the outdoors.
Ding ding. First go. Let's see if you can get the second one.
And telling stories, sharing stories.
Yeah, and I was thinking about, I think you told me...
Wait, how come I didn't get a ding on that one?
Oh, yeah, ding, 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 ding.
All right,
Yeah, 2 for 2. You're doing great.
Jeez.
Let's,
I was like, did I say something wrong? Is it my...
Okay, well, rein it in because we're going somewhere with this. You're doing great so far. Didn't you, as a young person, just start making some publications with your pals?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just give me the quick highlight to that.
Well, we started our own newspaper in fourth grade. Cartoons, news, handed it out, stirred up some trouble, which I loved. And then we started making our own books and comics and top 10 lists and art all through junior high and high school. So yeah, pretty much since fourth grade on, I've been making that kind of stuff.
I know you didn't know where I was going with this, but that is the perfect segue to talk about this episode today, which is all about a member of our outdoor community who has done the very same thing, but not a newspaper, not journalism, not storytelling, but fabric.
Fabric.
You're just going to have to keep listening to get the whole story.
Hey, Paddle and Portage listeners, this is Kate from Bending Branches. If you're like us, paddling isn't just something you do, it's part of who you are. And when you're out on the water, your paddle isn't just a tool, it's your connection to the adventure. At Bending Branches, we take that seriously. For over 40 years, we've been handcrafting canoe and kayak paddles right here in northwestern Wisconsin. We obsess over every detail, making them lighter, stronger, and built to last, because we know what it's like to be deep in the wilderness, where every ounce of weight matters and every stroke counts. We test our paddles the best way we know how, by using them, on winding rivers, glassy lakes, and carrying them on backcountry portages. Crafted with tradition, engineered for adventure, designed by paddlers for paddlers. So, before your next trip, stop by your local paddle shop or outfitter and find the Bending Branches paddle that's right for you. Because great adventures start with great gear, and the right paddle makes all the difference.
I'm not a professional at this, but I have been orbiting the outdoor industry for almost 44 years. I learned to sew when I was in high school. Not a real manly thing to pick up, so I kept it on the DL, but by the time I got to college, I realized it was what I wanted to do. So I went to Penn State. I would take my weekend time, borrow a neighbor's car, drive up to Woolwich, about an hour away, and pick through their bins and talk to their production staff. And I knew within the first few weeks at school that I wanted to be in the industry. I just didn't know what it was.
This is Kevin Kinney. Kevin grew up hunting and fishing in the forests and rivers of western Pennsylvania. With no real interest in organized sports, he was content and comfortable in the outdoor elements. Like many others, his world expanded dramatically after leaving home for college. The Penn State Outing Club had a climbing division, offering immediate access to a whole new world in the outdoors.
When I saw that you could do organized stuff that was dangerous with gear, I was hooked. And I jumped right in, both feet first. Learned from a guy named Tom Smythe, who was a biology professor there, and an old Tetons mountain goat. Nice guy. First time we went out, we were honest to God on Gold Line, tying sit harnesses, and he was in hobnail boots. And the guy that was with him, his young understudy, is like, yeah, no, try these shoes on, and try this harness, and this is current metal rope. And I'm like, oh, this technology. So I got in early. I was in on the ground floor.
While Kevin's love for the outdoors was filled with discovery through new mentors and friends, so too was he discovering a whole new world of fabric, sewing, and design.
I remember the first Polar Plus pullovers coming out. Malden was just coming on the scene. I'm like, this stuff is amazing because, I was dialing into fabric, I was dialing into gear. I would bring my rope home and wrap it up and coil it up and press it between two pieces and put it up on the wall in a frame. I was just, and you know, this doesn't jive at all with calculus and science and biology. A number of my friends worked in the bike shop in town. One person came back after graduating to manage the outdoor store there. And there was just no escaping the pool of the gear and everything, notebooks full of designs and ideas. And I quickly honed in on clothing, because I am 5'10" and my reach is 6'1". This is why I sew.
After graduation, Kevin followed the call of the West and relocated to Boulder, Colorado on a Greyhound bus with a bicycle and lots of enthusiasm, looking for any way to get a foot into the outdoor gear industry.
Moved to Colorado, honest to goodness, with a Cannondale bicycle panniers on a Greyhound bus right after graduation, bound for Boulder. Every loose nut in the country rolls up against the Rockies and sticks for a few years. And I just spent years collecting UV, working odd jobs. I worked at Kmart for 5 years. And then one day, I just got a wild hair and applied for a job at Dibbler Tents. And they're like, I don't know if we need anybody. I said, hey, take me for 2 weeks for free. And they're like, okay. And it was fantastic. I took to it like a duck to water. Industrial machinery, the production, and it's a small shop. I mean, it's like 6 people in a warehouse. They had a showroom out front. I got so into it that they said, here's the key to the shop. There's a shower in back. If you don't want to go home to your apartment 2 miles away every night, you can stay here and sew until you fall asleep. And I would throw a sleeping bag in the demo tents, wake up in the morning, shower, and be ready to go for 8 hours again. So there would be periods of time when my girlfriend was in Minnesota working her summer job, and I would spend a week at work and then come home on the weekend to wash clothes. I also picked up a nighttime job at Prion Wildwasser, sewing skirts, sewing neoprene gear and bags and such. So I was completely hooked, and I was unsupervised, and I was cut free to do my work, plus use the machinery at night.
Everyone would leave at the end of the day, and Kevin would have free reign of all the equipment, making his own gear with all the latest technology and fabrics. Since the pay wasn't amazing and outdoor gear is expensive, Kevin was able to use his skills to sew his own gear with the latest Gore-Tex. He was racing cycles, diving into Nordic skiing, and brought his passion for snowboarding from the East Coast right along with him to the Rockies. He met his wife, Beth, who introduced him to both paddling and most notably winter camping. A paddling guide, instructor, and cold weather enthusiast, Beth opened Kevin up to a whole new world of outdoor adventure.
I worked with a bunch of cyclists who taught me how to train, so we were cycling in the summer, we were Nordic and biathlon in the winter. I've always been a skier. I've been snowboarding since the 80s. We started on plywood. Went to OR when Bibbler was bought by Black Diamonds, got a job at Granite Gear. Walked over and met Dan and Jeff there, and I'm like, hey, do you got any sewing? And they're like, well, yes.
Beth, living in Minnesota, was the catalyst for Kevin's next big shift in life, a move to Minnesota. She continued to be a catalyst for introducing Kevin to the amazing outdoor community that the Midwest offers.
Moved from Colorado to Duluth and started commuting from Duluth up to Two Harbors to work at Granite Gear. Did that for a year. Went to Aerostitch, Aero Design and Manufacturing in Duluth's Craft District, world-class Gore-Tex motorcycle stuff. Humped up into an R&D position there and was just mind-blown. I got to see it all happen. I got to see Eurotech zippers come in. I got to see heat-molded things. I got to see engineered knits, structural stuff, different types of foam, plastic, molding, mold making. It was all laid out before me. My job was to sit on the computer and go find new shit and then document it and get samples and bring it in-house so we can play with it. I have been in the Gore rain room in Bad Aibling, Germany, and there was at that time a little frog that we gave them, and every time the water came on, it would cheep. I love the exposure. The pay has never been fantastic.
It may sound like Kevin spends all of his time nerding out in a shop, which is only partly true. Ask any number of his friends, and they have a story to tell about some sort of shared outdoor experience. Here is Jason Torrens describing Kevin as a tripping partner.
I'm honored to call him a friend. We have had some super fun adventures on bikes. One time we were riding out in the middle of the UP and we're up for like 40 something hours. Through that time, he stayed up most of the time. He let me sleep for about 15 minutes. It was a crazy adventure, especially with a lot of sand, with a lot of rain. When the weather goes sideways, he's the best guy to have right by your side. Always has something good to say about it and maybe something snarky as well. He's been a huge influence in my life. That range covers from, making sweet clothes out of canvas and wool that keeps you warm at negative 25 degrees. Setting up some of the gear from time to time for crazy trips. He proves that it will mount on a bike. We figured out at the winter symposium that you can one year that you can actually strap a wood stove for your hot tent. It actually fits on your bike, no problem, and it stays undamaged through riding some crazy trails.
Support for this episode of the podcast comes from Borderland Lodge, inviting listeners to unwind, explore, and create lasting memories against the backdrop of the Boundary Waters. They're offering pet-friendly cabins, lakeside lodge rooms, and cozy weekend dining along the shores of Gunflint Lake. You can find more about Borderland at their website, borderlandlodge.com. Also, check out their Instagram page for some of the incredible Italian pasta meals that Steph is making up at Borderland 2026. We're excited to see what happens up at Borderland Lodge. Busy place all year round. Borderland Lodge on Instagram and Facebook, or their website, borderlandlodge.com.
Rewind back to a moment of inspiration when Kevin was still living in Colorado. He saw someone in a wheelchair at a bus stop and noticed they didn't have the most adequate clothing or gear to be outside. This eventually became a design challenge that led to a passion for creating adaptive outerwear for people with disabilities after landing in Duluth. Not only was he producing this gear, he was volunteering to help get those same folks outdoors, adaptive cycling, sailing, skiing, and even paddling.
In 2001, my friend Diane, a rehabilitation engineer from Minneapolis, ran a company called Blue Sky Designs. Fantastic person. Came to me and said, I've got this funny idea. Let's design a wheelchair accessible tent. I think we can do it. I'm going to pitch a grant to the Department of Agriculture. She did that, and we got a 1-year paid feasibility study, made a whole bunch of fun designs because I had known how to sew tents, and I had a sewing shop in my house. And we came back to the agency and said, I think we can do it. And they said, great, here's 3 years of funding, take it to market. And 3 years later, we sold it to Eureka. At OR, we were kind of the belle of the ball. It was that up there, the industry was going to become accessible and acceptable. And it was a wonderful moment. And I dipped out and continued on doing my work at the time, which had been making adaptive outerwear for people with disabilities. I was volunteer with Kevin Kinney for a long time. We had a great ski program. We did water sports in the summer. We did cycling. I loved the design challenge of it. I loved that it was unique. I loved that it really pushed me to do different things than I had seen anybody do. But at the same time, I loved being able to wrap all this new technology into it. Yeah, I mean, I was outfitting veterans, I was outfitting kids, I was outfitting Paralympians from a garage in Lakeside in Duluth, Minnesota, where I'm still at. But
avoiding the need to drive, Kevin got around on his bike and even carpooling to 2 harbors for work. Simplicity, avoiding debt, and following his passion has always been Kevin's modus operandi. He will always say, Beth has empowered this life of shared conviction through an equally intense work ethic and her service in the mental health field.
It's been a lot. I have a very tolerant wife who has a day job that provides us insurance. I now have an adult son living with us who pitches into the household income. We operate without debt. We own our house. We own everything. And we have so many toys. We make REI look bad because we just can't stop learning things. Good golly, my wife is a paddling instructor, so we've got, we're down to 12 kayaks now. Yeah. And we're in our late 50s. I'm a squirt boater to this day. I'm just between boats. We are learning to surf. I just picked up unicycle.
Again, Kevin wasn't making any money, so he took side contracts with people like Dwayne Lodig of Snow Trekker Tents Now, enter Empire Wool and Canvas.
Dwayne rolled into my shop in about 2005 in a pickup truck. Walked in and threw some mittens down on my table where I was busy sewing a whole bunch of synthetics and said, "Can you make these for me?" And I looked at him, and they're just choppers with gauntlets on. And I said, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "Okay, I'm going to pay you this much for them." And I started doing piecework for him. And it was paying a lot more than what I was doing at the time on my own. And about a year and a half in, he said, "You know, you're having a lot more fun at this than I ever did. You understand clothing. Why don't I sell you the Empire name, the domain, these three basic, chunky-looking homeboy canvas and wool designs, and I'm just going to go make tents, which is what I really want to do." So he was diversifying. He was casting off traditional toboggan equipment, because our friend Chris at Black River Sleds was making the toboggans. I was making some of the bags for that. He was doing tents, and he was doing the stoves, and then he had me and another person doing clothing, and he's like, "This is stupid. I just want to make tents. Chris just wants to do this. You take the clothing and have fun with it." And I just, both feet first. I'm like, okay, I've got a lot of designs. This is a new textile for me. It reminded me of growing up wearing cotton canvas and wool stuff, hunting in Pennsylvania. I'm like, it's kind of nostalgic, but let's turn this a little sideways. I waited a couple of seasons just not to upset the 200 dedicated customers we have that used to come to our old symposium. And then I just put my foot to the floor. I'm like, okay, I know how to make an articulated coat. I know how to do a good vest. I know how to do a pullover. I can turn this anorak into a parka and put an adjustable hood on it. So I just took my knowledge of all of that wonderful technology and, how can we blend Marmot with Carhartt and meet in the middle someplace? I wanted to take these fabrics and I wanted to bring them up to speed. I still say that I make technical outerwear. It's just for people who go a little slower in colder temperatures. I'm so set on just sticking with these wonderful fabrics that I've got and staying in my lane. And I built it to the point when I don't have to have a summer job that does synthetics. So I don't even have to touch on the stuff.
There are a specific set of core values that drive everything Kevin does. Most notably, it shows in the way his life is an investment in a better future.
I believe it is the next logical step for the industry. I mean, we have grown so big, the technology is now so flat that you can find plastic molded, heat welded garments at Walmart. And I think as a whole, silent sports and outdoor athletes, and in large part, a lot of the hunting and fishing crowd too, which is, I love the blend of the two of those. I love both sides of that. We're sick of it. We really don't like being spoon-fed garbage. I'm the one who started the Facebook page for a little group that we call the Mosquito Belt Manufacturers Association. And it is people that work in garages and do work on the sides and have their wife's sewing tables. And there are 42 of us in Minnesota and Wisconsin who occasionally get together to have pizza and talk about designs, and we go through each other's shops on little roving tours and pick out and share our leftovers, because we understand that the work we're doing is completely outside the norm. And I have seen some innovations from these kids, because I'm the old guy, that just make me smile. And the way they're doing it, the way they're sharing it and enjoying it and supporting each other has helped me to understand there's enough pie for everyone. And we're going to do a better job figuring this out at a micro scale than this. And I love walking through the halls of this place. I'm a gear nut at heart. I also see a lot of tired faces because this is their day job and there's no spark in it anymore. Sorry, guys.
Over the years, Kevin has come into high regard among his colleagues and friends. His work has inspired many in this Midwest community of passionate winter wilderness travelers and cottage industry craft people.
This is Jason Gustafson, owner of Lester River Bushcraft. Kevin Kinney, owner of Empire Wool and Canvas Works. I've known Kevin for 18 plus years. We met when I lived lakeside on Peabody Street and he's over on Tioga Street. And when I was starting my business 18 years ago, I had pestered Kevin about a wool anorak. It's kind of a funny story Kevin tells better than myself, but he was reluctant. And then after being a pest for, I don't know how long the timeline is, but finally he gave in and he made one. He nailed it. And that was kind of how it started with us. And since then, Kevin and I have become good friends, and I consider him a mentor. Here a year and a half ago, and he encouraged me at 50 years old to buy a sewing machine and start putting some of my own ideas out there, which I have done. And I owe him a world of gratitude. He's been a great friend, a great mentor, and I'm looking forward to the future with projects with Kevin. Much respect, my friend.
Hello, this is Pete Brodigam of Brodigam Expedition Works. I've known Kevin for around 15 years. I met him at the Winter Camping Symposium, and he's been one of my dear friends ever since. He's always been there for me as a mentor, even when life, for a lack of a better term, runs into some slush. He's also a phenomenal gear-making mentor. When he speaks, I listen. There's some really good golden nuggets of information that you just know that this is some time-tested advice. His words are not the only medium for mentorship. His craftsmanship, passion, long-term drive set the optimum metric for cottage gear makers. And that, to me, is someone I really strive to be and look up to. So I look up to him in numerous ways. In short, we should all be like Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, normal people don't go into psychology, and we don't go into outdoor education, and we don't go into manufacturing.
Exactly.
There's a reason we're toiling away in these quiet little pursuits or trying to find meaning in our work. Without the meaning in it, we might as well just be sitting in a cubicle.
One significant hub for this community of craftspeople as a cultivator of wilderness wanderlust is the Winter Camping Symposium. It's no surprise that Kevin has been sharing both his skills and his values at the symposium for years. If you haven't been, it's possibly the most authentic skill sharing, storytelling, and connecting homegrown camping experience offered to the public. It's definitely not about selling gear. It's about being together and learning from each other.
Hello, my name's Chad Nelson.
Hey, this is Matt Rasky.
My name is Jeremy Maslowski.
My name is Ryan Fox.
My name is Kurt, and I had the joy of meeting Kevin 5 years ago at my first Winter Camping Symposium.
Initially meeting Kevin at the Winter Camping Symposium.
Met way back at the Winter Camping Symposium.
Taking a course at Minnesota's Winter Camping Symposium.
I met Kevin Kinney more than 15 years ago because of winter camping and the incredible gear that he makes.
He's one of the finest designers and makers of outdoor gear there is, but you probably won't hear that for him because he's not interested in self-promotion.
You'll be hard-pressed to find a fabric fanatic that's as knowledgeable and as passionate as Kevin is.
He taught me how to make a wool boreal shirt, and I still have that shirt, still put it on in the fall. I love that shirt.
Soft-spoken, kind, extremely generous.
There are items of Kevin's that I have had for our whole relationship that have been passed down to my children and they're using in their outdoor adventures as well.
He's an incessant tinkerer, innovator, designer, and maker, but most of all, he's a giver.
And absolutely wants to help others who share an interest in learning to work with wool and creating lasting natural clothing and gear.
Kevin and I have shared frozen campsites in the Boundary Waters, conversations in his shop, and all the general moments that make up a life: adventure, losses, quiet talks, tears, and lots of laughter.
He connects people. He encourages us, and he gives us the confidence and the inspiration we lack to get out and do hard things in hard weather.
His devotion to following his dreams, to his family and his friends, is apparent in everything he does.
How much I admire the way he loves and cares for his family.
Kevin, you call your brand dry and awkward, but to me and so many others, your real brand is authenticity, generosity, and integrity.
Kevin, you really are one of a kind. So congrats, and thanks for being the one who connects so many of us together in our love of winter travel.
I'm grateful for every mile, every memory, and every moment of friendship we shared.
And thanks for making great products that help keep us from dying in the process.
If only the world had a few more Kevins around, this world would be such a better place.
Kevin's a remarkable man, as we've heard throughout this episode. Very skilled at what he does and skilled at many things. And he's also, you got to get to know him a little bit, which I also appreciate about him. When I was like, this dude knows what's up, had that moment, was in Madison at Canoecopia. We all get snowed in, stranded. We're at the hotel. It's like the extra night. Oh, everybody's worn out and stuff.
Yeah, we just had Chinese food in the lobby all together.
We just gorged on some Chinese food, including Kevin most specifically, actually.
He did eat every single bit that nobody else did until all of it was gone. Thanks, Kevin.
That's right. So afterward, we're all kind of going back into the lounge chairs and stuff. There's this like sofa type love seat thing. And Kevin just sprawled out on that thing, laying out, stretched out, just
feet up,
not giving, but like in a graceful way somehow. And I was just like, that's, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can hear from this conversation and all the voices in today's episode, it is sort of Kevin is, to a certain degree, settled into himself in a way that I think we all find deeply inspiring. And I think we all can learn a lot from Kevin about how to live a good life. And I hope that we can lounge on that love seat, not together, there's not room for all three of us, but with our feet up in that Kevin Kinney style.
Old Kevin would make room for us. You know he would.
Always sharing that, Kevin.